Hello and welcome to Blue Garden Cottage compost heap. Yep, that's what I'm talking about today. That's the big job for today. I have a number of other jobs between harvesting, planting out, tidying up, deadheading, but today's big job is the compost. And this heap that I'd made in the autumn has shrunk down by more than half, and I just covered it with that construction plastic and the old pond liner, and in this composter, which was completely full to the top, is now less than halfway full. And I don't know if you can see over there, that's an ant nest. So it's time to disturb that compost. If I was to turn this compost every single week or every 2 weeks, there wouldn't be a problem with ants making a nest. But as you can tell, they've really processed that soil into something very, very fine. So I'm not begrudging them that, although I am going to begrudge myself having to disturb their nest, because they will quickly scurry, gather their eggs and run away somewhere else with the eggs to protect them. But for now, I'm going to turn this compost. But before I do that, I am going to put it all in one place and sift out with the riddle over there the fine compost that I can use now, and everything that's left over will go back in the composter. I'm not going to bore you with filming that. But when I put it back into the composter, I'll be layering it with some fresh hedge clippings, some shredded paper, and a little bit of compost. Compost? What am I talking about? Straw. A little bit of straw, shredded paper, fresh hedge clippings, and whatever's left over. And of course, from the green bin that's out that I've moved over there, some fresh green waste from the kitchen. Alright, until then I'm finished, and then I'll show you. I'll speak to you in a bit. There you have it. Today's hard work. I got 3 brand new compost piles made, one in the big Dalek at the back and 2 heaps over there, layered in exactly the same principle as you can see. And out of all of that I sifted as I went along and made layers, you can see there I got 2 rubble sacks full, a full trug bucket, and a whole wheelbarrow and a dustbin, a plastic dustbin full of the most beautiful compost. It's like worm compost rather than wood compost, but it has got absolutely everything in it, and it is absolutely beautiful. It was so full of life, crawling and teeming with life, so I know it's good stuff. Right, now I'm just going to cover this up because it's been watered with every dry layer, and I'm going to cover up to stop any more rain getting to it and washing everything out. So it'll be left now for at least 2 to 3 months. By the autumn I shall turn it again and sift it again. I just can't say enough how valuable and important compost has been here at Blue Garden Cottage, in any garden that we've ever been in, and at the allotments. Sorry, the neighbour's busy working too. But it has been so important, especially since most of the gardens in this area are clay soils. And to improve clay soils and make all those lovely nutrients in clay soil available, you need to add organic matter. And there are so many different ways of doing it. And here is that wheelbarrow full of beautiful homemade compost. So fine, so light, but so full of life. Absolutely beautiful. And it is so valuable, especially in this garden, as I've said. I cannot do without compost, especially for sowing the seeds and filling the pots with veggies and mulching the soil to protect it from too much rain, too much sun, and help to keep the weeds down. Well, that's only in the annual beds. Where the perennials are concerned, I use the chop and drop and the wood chips that have sat for a year. Without compost, this garden would not be what it is right now. Usually it would take a lot longer to build soil fertility like this if you were doing it in the traditional way of gardening. In fact, the traditional way of gardening would just have depleted it more than it already was, because there was absolutely nothing here but boggy lawn full of moss. Excuse me. Compost is now, at this time with COVID, very, very rare to find. When you do, you find the expensive stuff, because everybody is gardening. It's the dig for survival, let alone dig for victory thing. And it's great that everybody's gardening. It gives us some sense of resilience, self-reliance, and security. It connects us with nature. So it's great that everybody's doing it. But while there's not a lot of compost around, it's definitely a good idea to try and make your own as well. But it does take time. There are obviously, as I've said, much quicker ways of making compost. You could have chickens, which would really, really help turn that waste into compost very quickly. But I have no room in here for chickens. Couldn't afford the feed, so we do without it, and we just have to cold compost. That's the easiest method for us. So you have to think about what's important for yourself. What do you need? What are the needs of your space? While the garden is still being developed, because we still have some work to do, these have to become raised beds, tall raised beds, so they still have to be filled. But as the garden develops and fills, and the plants establish better and produce more material, then hopefully over time we'll need less and less to buy the compost. We estimate that whenever we've started a garden from scratch, to get it to where we want it, the way that we can afford to and physically manage, it takes us about 5 years to get it up to where it needs to be, where it is turning from an input phase of gardening to a yield and output only, almost. So I reckon we've got at least another year, maybe year and a half, before this garden starts to cost less and less as far as compost is concerned and materials. And after that, hopefully the only thing I'll need compost for is the seed sowing and the potting on, and occasionally mulching, just twice a year. So in that case, thinking about that, if that's all I needed, then maybe we can get away with just the amount of compost that I can produce in our garden. So it's just time and patience and realizing the value of the compost, because the compost doesn't actually feed the plants. The compost feeds the microorganisms in the soil, and they turn the matter into food for the plants. So compost is key in looking after the soil so that it looks after the plants, which look after you. And that's the thought I want to leave with you today. Do let me know in the comments section how you're getting on with your garden as far as supplies are going during COVID, wherever you are in the world. I'm sure it's a similar situation. How are you coping with shortages, and how are you making your own compost? Or if you are, what are your experiences in making compost or buying it? Just those things. Just have a chat, do communicate. So after we've just had some lovely rain, the rewards of all the hard work are certainly coming into view. So I'm going to leave you with that and ask you, as usual, if you haven't already done so, to like, subscribe and share, to comment and visit us again. It's been lovely being with you and visiting with you, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.